Wow, there are a lot of things to unpack with this drawing, to be honest. I started this drawing May 2022. At the time of recording this voiceover, it is March 2023, and also at 3:30 in the morning. I keep pushing these things off when I truly want to make them a priority, and I simply just don't. And that's not very girl boss of me, so I'm trying to fix that habit and force myself to do these things. This game isn't super relevant anymore, but obviously I have the footage, so I'm going to use it. I loved making this drawing, even if it isn't like the best. And even though I've improved since then, I'm still so proud of this. And I loved what I did with it. Like, I tried to do thinner line art than normal, and I do like how it turned out. But like nowadays, I've been making my line art digitally a lot more thick. And especially traditionally, I do make my line art pretty thick because I'm scared of making it too thin and having it look janky. I am really scared of drawing animals digitally because I really do not know how to do fur at all in Procreate. Like, I have no idea how to make it look like fur because with alcohol markers like Copics and Ohuhus and stuff, it's so easy for me. It just comes so naturally, except for the face, but everything else comes pretty naturally. And I really love how it looks in the end, but I can never do what I want digitally. I just don't know how. Maybe I'll learn one day, but I've just been sticking to people digitally because that seems to work out most of the time and it looks half decent. To my knowledge, this was one of the first digital pieces that I actually attempted a background on, and even though we aren't there yet, I just wanted to let that out there. Digital art has sure been a journey for me. It's a lot different than what I'm used to, and some things are obviously easier because it's digital, but the way I want my art to look digitally and the way it ends out are kind of different. Well, not kind of, they are very drastically different, but I'm not mad at how it looks now. I have come to the mindset where that is just a part of the process, but I still am getting a little frustrated because I did a ton of art trades recently and all of them were digital, and holy God, I got so sick of using my iPad. Ugh. I typically cannot stick to one medium like for every piece. I have to switch it up or else I get bored. And honestly, I'm not mad at that. Every medium I use, I have different like specialties with. Like digitally, I'm better with people. I've noticed I haven't attempted to like try and cross-platform my styles. Like, I typically paint flowers with acrylic paint or I draw them with colored pencils, and I've been trying to convince myself to try it digitally because I have no idea how realism is going to go digitally. Like, traditionally it's never perfect, but it won't be digitally either. But it's just nerve-wracking. But I like the control you can have with digital art, and I really want to up the stabilizer usage. And oh my god, everyone I see uses like Studio Brush Pen on Procreate for their line art. I just use an edited version of the dry brush, and I can't decide if I like it a lot or if I just want to use a studio pen, but I don't like how the studio pen works, and I don't really want to go through the effort of trying to figure out how the brushes in Procreate work so I can change it to a way I like. But I feel like I should eventually. It's just one of those things that I'm avoiding because I procrastinate on occasion. Contrary to popular belief, I am not a huge procrastinator in everything but art. Art, I will procrastinate till the end of the earth, but with everything else, I try and get it done like just a little bit every day until it's finished, because I know if I don't do that, it's just gonna make me very upset. I do not know if you can hear my dog snoring, but if you do, that's great. I do not care that much. But back on topic, I've probably said this before, but for me personally, I don't feel like digital art is as like immersive for me. I always feel myself like touching my traditional works and just like staring at it and looking at the metallic like aspects of it, but you don't really have that digitally. Like, you can only make things look metallic, and you can only really like have them in your hand if you look at it, like, well, if you get a print of it. But I just love looking at my digital works. There are some works that I'm so proud of that I've done digitally, like this one especially, but it's just, it doesn't feel the same to me. I always feel like more of a sense of accomplishment when I finish something traditionally that I don't get when I do digitally. I get like a different sense, and I don't know if it's like the same feeling but not as intense, or if it's just a different feeling entirely. I'm also learning to let my stutters and misspoken words stay in the voiceover. I had to think that one through, so I didn't do it again. But I don't care anymore to try and like fix it every time, because everybody messes up their words on occasion, and I'm not special. I am honestly not a big fan of editing or doing these voiceovers, but at the same time, it's kind of therapeutic. Not the editing part, the voiceovers. I like doing voiceovers sometimes, but God, sometimes it just pisses me off. When I draw, I typically have like music playing, or I'm like watching a show on the side, and that helps me be more productive. But with these voiceovers, I cannot do anything else because you will hear it in the background, and that's a little embarrassing. I don't need to expose myself. And this video, at least the amount of time that I have to put a voiceover on, is almost 25 minutes. So that means 25 or more minutes of my time if I do retakes, just talking to myself. But I can't decide if I enjoy it or hate it at the same time. It's very weird. I am in the process of trying to make myself be more productive about the business side of art things, because you can't really sell your art if you don't have like a business for one, or a big community. Well, not a big community, but like a community in general. Like, you can't sell your art if no one knows who you are. But it's something I'm working on, and this is my first step in that direction. Maybe not the first, but it's somewhere around there. And I am just trying to find as many ways as possible that I can sell my stuff, make it affordable, and also earn like a decent profit from it. For example, currently I'm straying away from Etsy because I do not have the funds to pay them every time I want to put a listing up, because if it doesn't sell, that's just a loss for me. And I know Etsy does good at like pushing things out there, but it's just, I don't know if that's where I can be right now. And I know I'm not a huge YouTuber, but I just want to keep it real on these voiceovers, because sometimes I cannot stand when people just talk about the art the whole time. Well, specifically what they're drawing, but like, keyword is sometimes it's nice to listen to and learn from. But for me, like, talking, I do not think I could talk about this for 25 minutes, if I'm being so honest. This took me, to my knowledge, 5 hours. I haven't checked in a long time. But I love this drawing, but I just don't think I have the attention span to speak about this drawing for 25 minutes. Also, another whack thing, I will go on YouTube and search up like royalty-free music that I can use on my videos, and then it lies to me, and then YouTube like claims that it is this song that the video didn't say it was. Like, can you please just make something easy for me? Because I want a long audio so that I don't have to like download multiple different songs and just like upload it one by one, because that's boring. I just want like a little tune in the background so me speaking isn't as monotone and weird. It's just, I never really thought about these things until I actually like had to do it. And wow, like, to the big YouTubers out there who still do it all by themselves and don't have an editor or anything, like, props to you. I could never. Once if I ever do get big enough, which I hope I will, I would love to hire an editor, because then I not only don't have to do it myself, I can support someone else, and that would make me very happy. Like, I have this friend who does graphic designs, and I love him very much, and I would love for him to make my thumbnails, because I also don't like making thumbnails, but I don't have the funds to support him currently, and that makes me really sad. But eventually, I will, because I want to support him in absolutely every way that I can. I don't know why I made the background pink here. I think it was so I could see where I'm placing that color better, but I do not remember. That's the only thing that came into my head just now. And like I said, it is now almost 4 in the morning, so there's that. But the coloring process here was really difficult, to be honest. Like, I never fill things in because I feel like the edges never get it properly, but then I miss some spots when I'm like just coloring it in by hand, and then that also makes me really frustrated, and I really don't know what to do about that. It's a thing I still struggle with to this day. I struggle with it on this drawing too. Oh my god, and now watching this back, I found like a much better way to do blending than what I was doing here. But at the same time, like what I was doing there was like kind of therapeutic, but not completely, because sometimes it's very annoying and very not foolproof. Because I was using the same brush that I used for the line art to put in like the shading and stuff, and then I would use the dry ink brush, the normal one, to blend everything. And honestly, I thought it kind of looked cool. I really like the texture that it added, but it's very inconvenient and time consuming, and I don't know if I want to do that all the time. And I don't know when or how I changed, but I did one day, and I haven't looked back since. Like I said, digital is a lot more complicated. Like the blend modes that, like, I've been seeing tutorials on TikTok on like how to use them, or more so like ideas on how to use them, and other stuff that kind of like explains what they do and what they are, and like them in comparison to other things. And that honestly was pretty helpful to an extent, but it's not their fault that I'm stupid, it's kind of mine. But I'm glad that somebody's doing that. I love people who help other people. It's so useful, and I could not thank them enough if I tried. But then there's also the part in me that hates following tutorials. Like, I just cannot bring myself to do it, even though I know I should, and I know I should try, because it could help me improve a lot of things, but I'm just way too lazy. So I need to get on that. Maybe I can make a video out of it. And now that I have a better setup for traditional art, I'm planning on trying to record more things, but I always forget, and then I always pick up my phone while I'm drawing and doing things, which I'm trying to break that habit so I can be more productive doing things. So maybe recording it is like a win-win, because then I can't pick up my phone because I'm recording, and then I get too anxious because I don't want the camera angle to change too much, and then I'm not using my phone, and then it looks good, and that's just absolutely wonderful. Seeing this hair process is so funky to me. I really don't know what I was doing, but I was doing something. My hair is completely different now. My hair is very, very detailed, but I really didn't know how to do the hair any other way, so that's kind of why I made it like this. And I don't know what I would do now, to be honest. It's a little intimidating, like just alternate hair colors and like blending and ombres and stuff like that. That's just out of my comfort zone and nuts for me. So, like I said, recording voiceovers is difficult for me because it is now 9 p.m. the next day, and that is fine, I guess. I hope I don't sound as tired and exhausted, because now that I listened to like a little bit of the past clips, I sounded very tired, and it's kind of funny. But back to the hair. Hair now is something that I really love drawing, but I still do not know how to do hair that has like different strands and streaks in it. It's very difficult for me to figure that out. I tried doing a drawing like that recently, and it was interesting, and I kind of liked how it turned out, but I didn't like the rest of the drawing, so I'm kind of like taking a break from it or not going to continue it, and I honestly think that's okay. I don't really have much motivation to work on it anymore, and I'm not going to force myself to work on it because I do not want to begin hating art. However, I do like force myself to draw sometimes, and that is okay with me, and that is healthy for me, so it's okay. And this kind of arises a problem because I've been trying to get into character design because I have this kind of whole universe in my head of these characters, some which are not created yet. But oh my god, it's so difficult because I know like shape language and stuff like that, but it's just, I look at a lot of like video game franchises because their character styles are very important and stuff like that, and it's just a lot. And my style is more detailed. I really do not know how to do things simplified or in an easier way most of the time. This drawing is like, in comparison to my style now, a little more simple, but I want to learn how to simplify things, which I really struggle with, and I really want to get better with that. I just need to remind myself that not everything needs to be super complicated or super detailed, and that it's okay for things to just look a certain way. Oh my god, this gem was really fun for me to work on. That's what I remember about that. Very brief imagery of that, but it was fun, and I really enjoyed that, even though it's not very large in the drawing. But sometimes it's fun to mess with things digitally, even if it's not super apparent. I honestly want to try the shading style again, though. I like the texture that it added. You never really think about how like odd textures look sometimes, because you want it to look like, even if it's stylized, kind of realistic. But texture, like even recently, has been super important to me. I just love texture, even if it's not like quote unquote natural. I just feel like it adds something unique to the drawing, and it kind of is like, wow, that's like your art. Something I will say about my art, though, is I'm kind of insecure. I don't know if that's the right word, but that's the word I'm going to use. About the way I draw eyes. Because a lot of artists I see draw eyes a different way, or like in a similar way, and I feel like my eyes can kind of be expressionless. I don't know if that's the right word. I really don't know how to describe how I feel about how I do my eyes. Although I do draw my closed eyes differently now than in this drawing, but I still love it. But it's just like, I don't know if I should change it, because I like drawing eyes the way I do. It's very fun. But I just don't know if it's where I want my style to be headed. And I don't know if it's like preventing me from growth, or if I'm just overthinking it way too much and being stupid about it. I'm thinking maybe I could try out drawing different eye shapes, or like just the structure of the eye a little different than I normally do, and just do like a few studies to see if I like something better, if something works better. Another thing I'm trying to work on is noses. I want to make my noses like different for each character, and it also to communicate like shape language. Here, I honestly didn't know what to do, so I just made his nose look like that. That's kind of my default nose back then. I say back then as if that was forever ago, but it was almost a year ago, so I would say it counts. There was a drawing I did where I tried to make a different nose. I think it's called a hooked nose. I could be very wrong. And I don't know the exact region it's from, so I'm not going to say, because if I get it wrong, that's embarrassing, and I don't like correcting myself. But I absolutely love how it came out in that drawing, and I feel like I've tried to replicate it a few times, but I've only gotten it right once or twice since. Because I tried to draw the character again, and that was really difficult. But then I drew her like twin sister, and it looked just fine. So I don't know why it's just that specific character that I'm worried about. Maybe I'm just overthinking things, but that is low-key how it kind of feels. Off topic, but I'm literally recording this in my bed, and I, for some reason, decide to sit up and speak to my iPad in my lap instead of like laying down and being comfortable. I think that is why this is partially so difficult for me. Maybe I just need to like chill out, because it's not that big of a deal, and it's honestly not that deep, and I make it a little too deep, and it's kind of stupid. Okay, I have leaned back, and I want to talk about my line art now. Digitally, I always find myself coloring my line art, and I do not know if I love it or hate it, because with this drawing, I feel like it worked out really well. and it's just kind of a thing I do. I tend to call what I do dynamic line art, because I'm not sure if I fully applied it into this drawing because we're not fully into all the line art yet. But with hair especially, I add like a lot of line art to hair, and I try and make it seem 3D or in like a 3D form. And this drawing doesn't really show that because I didn't do a lot of line art in the hair, I just kind of did the outline. But I kind of love the way I do it digitally, and it's very different than how I draw things like on paper or traditionally. It kind of gives me imposter syndrome in a way. I don't fully know how to explain how it makes me feel. But at the same time, I'm like trying to remind myself that no matter what medium I use, my style is going to be different because I have to adapt to that. Because like I said earlier in the video, traditionally, I love drawing animals. Digitally, it's kind of spooky, and I really do not know what I'm doing. And I probably do need to find a tutorial and follow that and just do a little experimenting, because sometimes I forget that not everything needs to be as difficult as I make it. I like encourage people to follow tutorials and do things and find new things and learn new things, but I just simply will not. And I feel like I need to be more on top of that, and I feel like once I like get myself in the groove of doing that, then it will become like second nature. So I need to force myself to do things sometimes. I like to call it tricking myself into being productive, because if I feel like I'm not going to be productive that day, I will just brush my teeth, put on a new change of clothes, do a little bit of makeup, and I feel like a brand new person. And then I feel like I could be so much more productive in the day, and I feel better about myself. And sometimes I don't do that, and I try to be productive, but honestly, I think it really helps, and I want to try incorporating that in my life more. Because not only does it help me, like, hygienically and just me as a human being and emotionally, it helps my art a lot, and art is something that I care about, and I find myself struggling to do things because I put art above that. But if I kind of try and prioritize them both, I think my art would also become better, because then those things aren't in the back of my mind, and I could just like sit down and focus on art after I have everything else done. The reason why I start like pausing while I'm talking is because I'm kind of watching my process again, because I haven't seen this footage since I recorded it. So it's kind of cool to like look back at how I used to do things and things I like to do that I maybe want to incorporate again now, because I feel like some things that I've changed maybe aren't for the better, and I just did it to conform to what I thought was what people wanted me to do. But if I don't do my art the way that I want to do it, how am I gonna continue making it and find like my community of people? And on the topic of community, I really struggle with finding a niche, but that I honestly have stopped caring about that. I just make the art that I want to make, and I'll just consider myself more versatile, because that's the easiest way to do that. I may not be as advanced as other people in one specific craft, but I have multiple, and I'm honestly proud of that, and I don't want that to change. Oh my god, and the background of this was so much fun. I think it was the first digital background I did. I'm more than sure. It was my first. But it was just so fun because you can kind of make things look more blurry than you could traditionally. Well, naturally. It's much easier to do certain things digitally than traditionally, and vice versa. But one thing I especially noticed on this drawing was the sky. The sky just looked off, and it didn't look like Arceus. So I obviously had to get a reference photo and change the sky a little bit. And I think that's what really helped pull this drawing together. It made it look like the game in a way. Well, not in a way, it kind of did, but in my own style, and I love that so much. I didn't realize this until a while later, but I was gonna add trees in the background and I didn't. And I don't fully know if I regret that or not, because I feel like it could have taken away from the characters. At the same time, it would have added a little personality to the background, but it is the way it is, and I love the drawing, and I think she's amazing. Well, honestly, I was kind of scared to draw Leafeon too, but I think it turned out really well for my first time drawing a Pokemon digitally. I really loved this process, and it was so much fun, and I hope you enjoyed watching the video. Please leave a like, comment, and I'll see you guys in the next one.